1:30 we will take a little break. And then so 1:30 to 2:30, 1 hour. From 2:30 to 2:45 we'll have a little break. And so the class will go until 4:30, right? At 4 o'clock, from 4 to 4:30, right? Yeah, from 4 to 4:30 we'll have 30 minutes for Q&A. So from now on, we would revisit the narration that I did this morning. At this point, we're going to talk about the characteristic of the Vedic texts. We are not going to cover everything. We will pick few terms, and then it's more like thematic, and then we'll talk about them. So the key words for this session is Brahman, B-R-A-H-M-A-N, Brahman. Then the second term, Atman, A-T-M-A-N, Atman. Third term is Indra, I-N-D-R-A, Indra. The fourth term is Nirvana. Of course, I don't have to spell that. It's an English term. Nirvana. So first, let me explain these four terms. There are many more terms because I try my best to not use non-English terms. We would only use the important Sanskrit, Pali or Indian religious terms, and everything else has to be in English terms. So Veda, as I explained this morning, is the mainstream scripture of what is called Hinduism today. But today, Hinduism is very different than its ancient counterpart. That is, in ancient times, it was called Vedism, V-E-D-I-S-M, Vedism, meaning ism of Veda, meaning ism means a dogma or a belief, Vedism, and then also Brahminism, that is the ism of Brahmins. Why I am mentioning these terms is that ancient Indian religion was very different than modern Hinduism. And then over the history, mainstream Indian religion has lost its characteristics, lots of characteristics. In modern Hinduism, in certain branches of modern Hinduism, some perform animal sacrifice. In ancient Hinduism, animal sacrifice occupied a prominent place in the spiritual practice in ancient Hinduism, Brahminism. And then we come across horse sacrifice, human sacrifice, animal sacrifice to please their god. And then being Vedism or the ancient Indian Hinduism started as again, the very root of Hinduism would be polytheistic, because of the primal ancestors. Our ancestors believed, as I explained, believed, perceived natural occurrences as an act of different gods. So as a result, there was this polytheism, belief in multiple deities. In modern Hinduism, you know what? People believe in 33 million gods. In Hinduism, 33 million gods. I think late or early 80s, they call the pantheon, right? Board of deities, pantheon. As far as I remember, the latest addition happened in late to early 80s. That so the Hindu priests created a goddess called AIDS Amman, goddess overlooking, protecting HIV people, AIDS Amman. So it is very unique of Hinduism. Based on the human need, they create another god and ask the people to pray. Psychologically, without offending religion, if I use in psychological terms, that's how actually that's how religion started in the world too. In order to satisfy their needs, people thought about a cosmic power, a parallel, a cosmic power that their needs would correspond to. As a result, they would come up with, they would believe that there's a higher power above them and helping them based on their need. And then the Hindu priests whosoever that invented that idea in the early 80s, and then they created this AIDS Amman. Amman, A-M-M-A, Amma in Indian languages means mother. Amman is a Sanskrit like Brahman, Atman, so ending with N. So a goddess in charge of, taking care of HIV positive people, AIDS. Just one example. So in Vedism, according to the earliest version of Indian religion, that was based on the Veda, because it was purely based on Veda, you would call it Vedism. But later, when Brahmins became the whole authority of Indian religion, the same religion which was once called Vedism came to be known as Brahminism, because it is the religion of the Brahmins. And in early Vedic religion, there was no Brahma. Brahma wasn't the creator. In Vedic religion, Indra was the creator. I-N-D-R-A, Indra. Indra was the creator. Brahma occupied the place later on. In the earliest version of Vedism was pretty much similar to Avesta and the early Aryan religion that was imported into India by Persians. So in early Vedic religion, the predominant ritual was offering sacrifice to fire god, because it originated in Zoroastrianism in Persia. So that's why even to this day, fire god Agni By the way, that's the name is Agni. Agni, Agni. I would never formulate questions that I never mention. Right? You don't have to worry. It's between you and me. Nothing to do with the university. Don't worry that you miss things. You never miss. Agni. Even today, fire god occupies a prominent place in India, Hindu ritualism. So, during the early period, during the Vedic period, priests, they would simply recite hymns. In Sanskrit, they are called Gitika. Even in Christianity, you chant hymns. So the Sanskrit word is for Gitika. G-I-T-I. G-T-K-A. Gitika. In Sanskrit and Pali, Gita means song. Right? Song. Gitika. G-I.
Gitika means what?
Hymn. Yeah, hymns. So in early Vedic religion, there was no learning sessions. Brahmins would get together, congregate together, and then they would, for hours and hours, they would chant hymns in Sanskrit. That was the main characteristic of Vedic religion. Chanting of hymns for many hours by priests in place of God. In early Vedism, as I said, Brahman wasn't the God. The God was Indra, I-N-D-R-A, Indra. Now, later on in your Pali class and in next semester during Buddhist philosophy class, you will learn the term Indra at length when it comes to learn Indriya. Now, in Pali, in Sanskrit and in Sinhalese, my hands, these are Indriyas, meaning limbs. So, the word Indriya is born out of the concept of Indra being the creator god. Now, Indra is the Vedic god, creator god. His limbs are called Indriya. What if I get all my limbs amputated? I would be powerless. Why? I can't move. So, the word Indriya in Buddhism, in Hinduism, comes from the idea of Indra. Indra literally means might, power. So, because of that,
obstacles.
It becomes obstacle when you are limbless. Yeah. So, Indriya, when you have Indriya means you have power. That's why in Buddhism, Hinduism, in Sinhalese, in my mother tongue, my indriyas are functional, means my limbs are functional. That's how we say in our language. So indriya means the areas that represent, things that represent the power of God Indra. So in ancient times, Indra was the creator god. But Indra, the idea of Indra occurs in pre-Indian religions. But later when Veda acquired more Indian characteristics, right, Indra got kicked out of the Veda. He lost his authority. Then came Brahman. Because Brahman as a creator god is 100% Indian, whereas Indra was Persian, semi-Persian, semi-Indian in character. So that's why slowly but smoothly Indra got kicked out from the Veda. In early texts, Vedic texts, people would pray to Indra to offer sacrificial fire to him in place of him, in his praise. So now, what is the characteristic of Vedism, the earliest form of Indian religion? So hymns and offering, sacrifice. And there are two different kinds, by the way. The Pali Sanskrit word for sacrifice is yaga, Y-A-G-A, yaga. When you Google for yaga, you will come across lots of literature on yaga. And there was another one called Homa. Always these words go together. H-O-M-A. Yaga, Homa. Yaga is sacrifice, Homa is fire also. Yaga, Homa. You use that word. So it was basically a ritualistic religion. Earliest version of Indian religion was 100% ritualistic. There was nothing more than that. So the Brahmins would maintain the authority over religion, and they would believe that Indra created everything. So, but still, even before Brahman entered Hinduism, was accepted as the creator god within Hinduism, the idea of cosmic soul was already in place. Cosmic soul. It's called Paramatman. P-A-R-A-M-A. You pronounce it long. P-A-R-A-M-A. T-M-A-N. Paramatman. Parama and Atman. Parama means absolute. Absolute, ultimate. Ultimate. Atman is the soul. The absolute soul. The ultimate soul. That is the first and the last. Who is the creator? Yes?
But the Brahman also means absolute soul, right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So are they the same?
It is the same, but their idea was there, but later Brahman came to be identified as the Parama, absolute soul. But before, Indra was the absolute cosmic soul. So that it was the same concept, represented by two different gods. Because Indra was semi-Persian, semi-Indian type of god. So Indra, probably Hindu priests saw Indra as a building block to reinforce their religion with Indian characteristics. So that is why Indra got kicked out from the pantheon. So that he ceased to be the creator.
So is it fair to assume Vedism and Brahmanism as monisms?
Monism, yeah, exactly, yeah, monism, yeah. So then, when it came to during the second era of Indian religion, what is the second one? First Vedism. Yeah, commentary. At that point, Brahmanas, they wrote Brahmanas. You know, B-R-A-H-M-A-N-A-S, plural. Brahmanas, at this point, doesn't mean Brahmins, but the commentaries. Commentaries are identified with those who composed, those who wrote commentaries. So, why Brahmins call the commentaries Brahmanas? Just to, just to maintain the authority over the religious texts. So, still the four Vedas were there, but Vedic religion came to be known as Brahmanism. becoming what is called Brahmanism, Vedism saw a point of departure from absolute ritualism, because there was some space for intellectual inquiry during Brahmanism. Why? In order to write commentaries, you need to deconstruct the original teachings, right? But before that, during Vedism, people wouldn't touch the religious scripture for the purpose of interpretation, because it's a sacred word. But during the second era, that is during the commentarial age, and scholars, priests would deconstruct the hard Vedic teachings, beliefs, otherwise they wouldn't be able to write the commentaries. So during the commentarial era, period, so there was a name change, there was some little transformation, because commentaries were now occupying a similar status like the Vedas, original scriptures. So then it became Brahmanism. During the second era, the creator god was Brahman. So Brahman became the creator. So in character, Brahman is absolutely Indian, unlike Indra. Even today in Persia, I know some of my friends from Iran and Turkey. The male given name is Indra. I know one of my friends from Istanbul. His second son's name is Indra. Then what does Indra would mean? He said Indra means power, because it's Persian word. It occurs in Avesta as well, Indra. So in Buddhism later on, you will see that you kind of, one of the higher types of vipassana meditation is Indriya Bhavana. You meditate on your Indriyas, meaning your spiritual body. Right? We have the physical Indriyas and we have the psychic Indriyas. Your psychic body has different limbs, Indriyas. Of your psychic body, later on in your Buddhism class, you will learn parallel to our physical body, like another spiritual psychic body. And you always understand your physical body, selfhood, in terms of Indriyas. Because Indriya means power, might. So, then what happens? Now the Brahmins were comfortable with their creator. Why? The Brahmana. Actually, what happens first was that some scholars believe that Brahmanas were there already, who were human beings, right? And they coined the term Brahman in order to, convince themselves as the authority over the Vedic scriptures. Now, because Brahman is not that Brahmanas come from Brahman, but other way around. But you can say that in a religious setting. In the academia, it's okay to say that. Right? In the academia, I wouldn't say that in the Hindu congregation, but I would say the same thing in an academic setting. So later, so Indra disappeared, Brahman came, occupied, he became the creator. Now, Brahman would have a cosmic soul. What is the Sanskrit word for cosmic soul? Paramatman. Parama plus Atman. Paramatman. The absolute soul, the ultimate soul, from which arise individual souls, Atmans. If I am a Hindu, I would simply say, I come from Brahma. For example, like in theological terms. if let's suppose I am a Hindu, then you ask me where I come from, I would say theologically, or no, in conventionally, okay, originally I come from Sri Lanka. What if my answer is theological, purely theological? Where do you come from, Mugunanda? Well, I come from Brahman. That's where my Atman comes, my soul. So, and then next term is samsara. Samsara. Samsara occurs in Vedic religion, Vedic texts as well. Samsara and nirvana, two different. Actually, all with these two terms go together: samsara and nirvana. Now, sorry, one more term: karma, samsara, and nirvana. Karma, samsara, and nirvana. These are English terms. They entered the English dictionary in 1890s, late 1800s. So you write samsara as S-A-M-S-A-R-A. In Sanskrit and Pali you pronounce as samsara, but in English you pronounce as samsara, nirvana, and karma. Now slowly we are now approaching Buddhism at this point, but not yet. Say, well, then what happens? So in Brahmanism, now that Brahma has become the creator God, with the Brahmins being the authority over the scripture, sacred word. So in Brahmanism, in the commentarial period, era, scholars, Brahmins, priests, they would talk about samsara, karma, samsara, and nirvana. But these concepts were hardly mentioned in the Vedic texts, early Vedic texts. Why? There was no need for to talk about karma, samsara, and nirvana. Why? Absolute, yeah. Because you were created and you are going back there back to the Brahman one day. No question. No intermediate step. So just like in ancient Abrahamic religion too. Abrahamic religion, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam too. So Christianity talks about originals. Christians believe in original sin. Muslims and Jews don't. So that's why, because of the Christian idea of idea that Jesus died on the cross to rectify the sin committed by Adam, the primordial human being, and so that there should be a place for certain followers to get destined and suffer in order to purify that purgatory. There the idea of sin comes into being in Christian. Likewise in Brahmanism too. Now, then during Brahmanism, people would, Brahmin priests, Brahmins would talk about how we come from Brahman and what is the purpose of our existence when we go back to him. And there's a whole intermediate step, like the whole cycle thing. So, and then they would say, okay, we were created by Brahma, and then, so what is the purpose? The purpose is he created us, and then so what is the end? One day you will go back to him. Even today in theistic religion, sometimes people have difficulty. Scholars, priests have difficulty answering that question. Not only in Hindu, in many different religions. So, why he created us? He shouldn't have created us if we go back to him. Why he created us? Why he put us in the worldly form? We go back. Anyway, now then the Brahmin would say, now, so when Brahman gave you life, meaning you exist. During your existence, because he actualized, he germinated. You got your Atman. Brahman gave your Atman life so that you acquire a physical body. Then you would have a life. You can move in the world. You can tour the world. This touring the world is called samsara. In the ancient Hindu terms, samsara. In Buddhist terms,
Can you move your...
this one. Thank you. Sorry about that. Didn't know that. Okay. No, it's fine. Okay. So then you tour the world, and that's called in Sanskrit they call laukika. 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 Laukika means belonging to the world, meaning worldly. And then opposite is Lokottara. Loka, L-O-K-A, L-O-K-O-T-T-A-R-A, Lokottara. It's made of two words, Loka, L-O-K-A, Loka, plus Uttara, U-T-T-A-R-A. So, Loka is the world, Uttara is beyond. Beyond the world, transcendental. Beyond the world. So Brahman sent you to the world, gave you a body. Brahman gave you a life by putting you inside a physical body. The moment you were given a physical body, you start your moving, touring. You tour the world. That is samsara. So, the purpose of samsara, according to Hinduism, is to enjoy, see the world and go back to where you came from. You came from the cosmic soul, and that's where you're going back. So, in Hinduism, and then but still during, and this idea occurred in Brahminical period. So then what happens? Now, you are, simply because that Brahman gave you life by putting your soul into a physical body, for that simple reason, you are responsible for Brahman. It is pretty much similar to the idea in Christianity, the same idea. So you are responsible for your action. You are responsible for your action, self-moral responsibility. That is karma. But in karma or moral responsibility in Hinduism is because you have to make sure that you let Brahman call you back. So that is karma and samsara. You walk the moral path to make sure so that you wouldn't fall into moral adversity. You can safeguard yourself so that when you have to go back, you can go back to Brahman. It's called Brahma, B-R-A-H-M-A. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to explain these terms in the exams. It's for general knowledge. So I would stick the constant reminder. Otherwise, some of you might be wondering how we remember all this, memorize this. You don't have to. You only need to get the idea, the context only. So, plus, I email them the terms anyway back. Anyway, you get them again, so that you are not going to miss anything. I guarantee that you are not going to miss. So then Brahman. So, and then karma and samsara. Karma and samsara explain the intermediate step between Brahman, between the moment of creation and the moment of going back to him. And that's going back, that's called union with Brahman. That's called Brahma, B-R-A-H-M-A, Brahma. Sahaviveta, S-A-H-A-V-Y-A-T-A, long A. Long A means you put a hyphen. Long A, you pronounce it longer. Sahaviveta, S-A-H-A-V-Y-A-T-A, long A. Sahaviveta. Sahaviveta in Sanskrit means union. You go back to the union with Brahman. Brahma Sahaviveta. Basically, that is salvation in all versions of Hinduism. In all historical era, in all versions of Hinduism, it is the basic doctrinal idea of salvation. Brahman created you, or Indra created you, but in early Vedism, as I said, you don't talk about the intermediate step of samsara. Even if it doesn't mention, if Brahman created you, for sure eventually you will go back. But later, because of people wanted to know, due to intellectual curiosity, that again, as I said, paved the way for the writing of commentaries. Otherwise, people wouldn't buy that at all. They were reluctant. And that's how this idea of intermediate step of samsara was introduced. Now, Brahmin. And then what happens? People were still, some of the people were not still happy with that. Now, some people were motivated to go extra miles and to make sure that they don't fall from their moral adversity, and so that they wanted meditation. And that's the idea behind the third era. What is that? Forest dwelling Aranyakas. Yeah. A-R-A-N-Y-A-K-A. Aranyaka. Ka means the individual. Aranya means the forest. The individual who lives in the forest. Forest dweller. So the forest dwellers type of Hinduism or the third type of Hinduism. During that era, people were motivated to become more spiritual. Instead of simply listening to a sermon by a Brahmin, a priest. And then that is when meditation or yoga comes into being. It is the third period. Before that, there was no meditation. So, if you use the Western terms, the first period, Vedic period, is more like evangelical. You listen to him evangelical. Now you don't have to worry about that. You simply believe and listen. Evangelical. And the second time you are more intellectual also. More like Jesuit. I have all kind of friends. I have stayed with evangelicals. I have stayed with Jesuit priests, Benedictine, different countries. That's why I always see these different ways that people of the Christian faith perceive their religion. Some are more into meditation, some are more into academia like Jesuit priests. Some are more into meditation like Franciscan, Benedictine. Some are more into worldly like social, outgoing like Benedictine priests, doing vegetation and farmers and living with the community. See, it happens in all religions. In Buddhism too. There are forest dwelling monks, there are monks living with the community. Some are meditators, some are social workers. In Hinduism too, some are jnana, meaning they are intellectuals, some offer seva. Seva monk, seva Hindu priest and jnana, wisdom Hindu priest. Some teach and meditate, some do the social service. It's common to all the religions. Then what happened? So during the third era of Hindu religion, so that is Aranyakas, forest dwelling. So people were more into meditation. They really wanted to perceive God in their imagination, in their heart. They became more inward. To them, it was during the third era, that is Aranyaka period, that people were more inward. They wanted to see God in their heart through their practice. Like Sufi Muslims. Sufi Muslims believe that God is in their heart, not in the outer space. For the simple reason they get killed in many countries. Sufis, they are meditating Muslims. So it happens in all the religions. Then, so during the Aranyaka period, people were more into yoga. So that in yoga, in Buddhism, yoga involves your mind, whereas in Hinduism it involves both your body and mind. So, one common ground is that deep meditation, less eating, fasting is common in both in Hinduism and Buddhism. So scientifically, right? So when you don't get your body tired, you can save your energy, so that you don't have to burn calories, and so that when you stand still, sit still, you can survive more days without food. Scientifically, that's what it is. So then during Aranyaka period, people were more spiritual, and that is why they went to the forest for meditation. So that they wanted to see Brahman in their heart, in their meditation, in their psychic perception. And that's when afterwards they came out of the forest during the fourth era. That was Upanishads. Upanishads are the most interesting Hindu texts. Upanishads are more like poetries. They are poems of awakening, Upanishads. Now, when it comes to Upanishads, there are lots of later Upanishads there are, post-Buddhist Upanishads. Because when centuries after Buddhism came into being, Hindus absorbed a lot from Buddhism, and they wrote more Upanishads. And so they attributed them to earlier Hindu gods. So, for example, Maitri Upanishad. Maitri is metta, loving kindness. It was written centuries after Buddhism came into being. But they attributed it to an earlier period. So as to convince the people that it was idea of metta, Maitri was already there. So during the Upanishadic period, people were both inquisitive and spiritual. Being inquisitive, inquiring mind. So Upanishadic period, followers, adherents were inquisitors, so that there was no way for gurus to escape. They had to explain everything during the Upanishads. Some Upanishads are dialogues, so that you make a storyline. Some Upanishads explain dialogue between two people. They are in dialogue form. And then when you read Upanishads, you don't feel like, when you read Upanishad, you feel like now you are in a bookstore, standing at self-help book section, and you are now grabbing a book and going through the pages, and it's all universal, and you can very easily digest self-help books, it's universal knowledge. And then if you are a Buddhist, you feel like it's all Buddhism there in there. If you are a devout Christian, you feel like it's all Christianity is in there, and so on and so forth. Why? Self-help books are written in universal language. They don't mention specific religion, simply universal knowledge. Likewise, Upanishads. When you read Upanishads, to you can very easily digest Upanishadic ideas. It's because they are universal. Upanishads represent our inner feelings, our inner needs, our need to overcome insecurity. It's like you can find your salvation. You can find salvation all by yourself. You don't need the presence of Brahma. You are so comfortable seeking knowledge, becoming a seeker after truth. And that word in Sanskrit is called, and Buddha also used the same word, Satya. S-A-T-Y-A, Satya. And G-A, second word, G-A-V-E-S-I, Gaveshi. In Pali it is Satya Gaveshi. You don't have a Pali, you will learn later. Satya. In Sanskrit, Satya Gaveshi, meaning seeker after truth. And then during the last period of Indian religion, Upanishadic period, people, followers, believed that you need to perform what is called the inner journey. You have to travel into yourself in search of salvation. Otherwise, you would